Noah Fischer, I'm going to introduce next. Noah Fischer works at the crossroads between economic and social inequity and art practice and its institutions. His sculpture, drawing, performance, writing, and organizing practice fluctuate between object making and direct action, as well as an ongoing theatrical collaboration with the Berlin-based and Company. Is that how you say it? Yeah. He's the initiating member of the Occupy Museums and a member of Golf Labor. His collaborative work has been seen with and without invitation at MoMA, Guggenheim, Brooklyn Museum, ZKM, Venice, Athens, and the Berlin Biennials, among other venues. With Coco Fusco, Noah organized the Artist as Debtor platform, concerned with the sustainability of arts communities. With Occupy Museums, Noah is participating in the 2017 Whitney Biennial. Noah teaches at Parsons and maintains a studio practice in Brooklyn. Hey, Noah.
Hi. Thank you for inviting me. Revolution will come from 4 white dudes coming
there's
at you.
A white
coming
one
at you. All right. And you. Thank you for inviting me. And I don't know how long it's going to be. I just had my thoughts about complicity that I wrote down. So basically, I'll read from them. When Occupy Museums started in 2011, in the moment, exactly the first few weeks of the occupation of Liberty Park, I wrote a manifesto calling out basically the 1% in the art world, talking about pyramid schemes, and it was met with a lot of snark. About 75% of the art world not into it in the very beginning. Just really, I could see this on social media and around. People were not, not seeing the connection between the Wall Street inequity machine and itself, and ourself, the art world. What is the art world? The question about complicity is to step back and I think ask, like, what art world are we talking about? Mm-hmm. And it's a slippery thing. I can't really define it, but a group of people very, very good at looking at pictures and pretty good at self-referentiality, but not very good at seeing ourselves in a larger picture, social, economic, and especially the political picture. So I was thinking, like, how do you, and this has been something I've thought about for a long time, how do you really plot the politics that exist in the art world? I think it's a really different self-understanding than you can get from other perspectives. So Trump, here's my assertion, Trump is not the other of the art world, nor is he a threat to the art world. He is of the art world. He embodies a growing part of it, which Greg Shillette calls the bare art world, the part that is upfront about art as a place to park wealth, to engage in social upward mobility, and most of all, to make a lot of money from cultural and brand bundling, which is, I think, mostly what's going on now is real estate deals that bundle art into them. This is the fleshest game right now, and this is the big irony of the construction called sanctuary cities, because sanctuary cities, New York, LA, San Francisco, are the most expensive cities in the US. They have the highest rents in the US, and they're the places that artists are, that first, many other people in the front lines, and eventually artists are both creating and also getting pushed out of, right? So it's not really a sanctuary structurally, even though it might be a bastion of certain kinds of progressive values. It's not a place most artists, as a community, can imagine living for very long. It is true, though, that the art world speaks more in a Democrat than Republican dialect, more Bloomberg than Trump, perhaps. In other words, it's not about dangling luxury in front of the aspiring, but about luxury for those that already got it. So in this kind of real estate bundling, it's about progressive values. For example, the High Line, the Whitney Museum, the relationship between the Whitney Museum and the High Line and what's coming, this whole cultural institution that Bloomberg put $200 million into called The Shed, right? It really, if you read the last week's New York Times article about it, really like highlighting the progressive values, but it's a massive, unprecedented real estate project that's just evicting, hundreds of thousands of people somehow out of that part of New York. And even somehow then out of New Jersey and Brooklyn. So it's true that there was a rush to repudiate Trumpism after the election. I was also involved in organizing this J20 thing at the Whitney, a bit of an attempt to have a big tent moment in the art world because we're very divided among us. But it's less clear what all this means when the smoke clears. Speaking of large institutions, MoMA, the Met, the Whitney, possibly the New Museum. We don't know right now at this moment what's going on inside of them. Inside of the black boxes, there's definitely a split among the institutions. They're divided among race and class worker lines that exist inside the institutions, between their education departments and their boards and different curatorial departments. And I think when the smoke clears, we're going to see something maybe unexpected about their politics, because we know they're very close to Trump from the top down. To speak of a person that actually encapsulates the high visibility version of the art world, I think of Larry Fink of BlackRock, which is the largest financial institution in the world. You may not have heard of, $5.1 trillion. He's on the board of MoMA, NYU. He's an advisor to Trump, but he would have been even more an advisor to Hillary. She got elected, so here you see the art world is playing it both ways. That's how I understand the politics of the art world. Because the art world, which by I mean the institutions of the largest institutions, also including educational institutions, has been constructed, especially through the nonprofit status, to rely completely, almost completely, on the 0.101%. And that is getting much worse right now. It's like the whole game in the nonprofit world of survival is having a billionaire in your corner, right? So this dependency is our problem. It's not a problem of complicity. It's not a problem about guilt. It's a problem about structural dependency that is getting worse. It is difficult to imagine, in a sanctuary city at least, an art career, even a sustainable, small one of any kind, that does not completely and more rely on extreme wealth. And extreme wealth is pure politics. Extreme wealth is Trump politics. If you think of an art career as many poets have, think of theirs, maybe it's in a romantic way, but a kind of embracing obscurity, a chosen poverty just because there's not a lot of wealth in that world, little money in sight, the inevitability to have to create your own value system, except for not accepting the mainstream one, the system of your own meaning and visibility creation, then the grip of that kind of dependency may not be as tight, but that's not the art world that we're in right now, sitting here in Bowery across from the New Museum. Even in this very room, we're producing a cultural product of an art world that depends on a certain amount of flirtation with prestige, money, fashion, globalization, meaning like air travel to various locations, and network into various locations, and what we value is a high ceiling of capitalization, meaning we really want some of us to go like as high as you can possibly go. So consciously, subconsciously, or as a default, this is our definition of success in the current, at least this particular art world we're in right now, and that definition of success would have to be deconstructed and remade in order to undo our dependency problem. So we'd have to reform definitions to be probably more local, obscure, unglamorous, and reforming institutions. That letting go project could be a self-spiritual project concerning the ego and the need for affirmation from outside, from power. We could try to let go of that. But the institutional project is a long-term collective effort that depends on the equity work, which basically has nothing really to do with the art world. That's just a structural social problem that it means fighting against the 1% because they are not going to let go of their grip on institutions. It works very well. So people never give up power intentionally, and that's basically what Occupy Museum's theory is about, is fighting, being more confrontational in making it harder to have a grip on power. Occupy Museums has made an equation between visibility and responsibility. So the more visibility you have, it's just simply a political responsibility to blow it up. The problem we have with that is that it's not very sustainable. Like you guys have Bruce High Quality has a very good, seems like a more sustainable system. We don't have a system we don't make any money, we don't have a nonprofit, we kind of just what we have is visibility and access to the press to try to push forward certain conversations. So what I would say in closing is simply that it comes down to defining what our art world for ourselves. And our project right now, the Debt Fair project, we looked at debtors across the US, actual artists who are in debt, who are in default, who have all these kinds of structural problems, and because of these problems are not occupying the center of the art world, they're occupying the actual art world, which is a very big, made of hundreds of thousands of people doing all kinds of different art. And it's a very diverse art world. It's a totally different art world. And basically, we can't have effective resistance by saving the people, even the people under threat of Trump. We have to save ourselves. Like, we have to see ourselves as all, like, in a broad coalition as people that need to be collectivized, unionized for mutual liberation with large groups of people. Because mutual liberation, I think, is the only way that movements happen. It's not through, like, save the children, save this and that, like, you know, the sort of Starbucks model of, like, diverting a little bit of capital somewhere else. That's exactly what doesn't work. So I would say, like, reframe the definition of art world to think through complicity and get rid of dependency.
Beautiful. Thank you. I think about the question that Brooke said to me yesterday when we were talking about this, which is not only is the question, what is the complicity of institutions, which we all know are complicit because we can all Google who's on the board of the MoMA, the Guggenheim, the Met, the Frick. I mean, any major arts institution in New York has a handful of billionaires who are looking for tax cuts from Donald Trump. But the question really has to be turned on its head and towards us, which is how are we, all of us, every person, as normal practitioners of both art and life, complicit? And I think that you touched on that, yeah, very directly.